So many companies are sitting on a gold mine of data, but it's locked away from the people who actually need it to make business decisions.
Let me show you how to build an AI librarian who can read the organization data and answer questions about it in plain English.
Welcome back. I'm joined today by heavy hitter in the Google Cloud space, Mazlum Tosun.
Great to be here, Martin.
So Mazlum is the head of data at Group B's in Paris and a Google Cloud developer expert. So you've been building a lot of agentic AI for your customers lately. Tell me, is the hype real?
It is, but you have to build it right. You know how it is. Companies have all this great data, but nobody outside the data team can actually get their hands on it.
What do you mean?
Think it like a massive library where the books are written in a cryptic code. Only a few specialists, those who know SQL, can read it.
So you're essentially building the librarian who speaks human instead of SQL.
Precisely. This agent doesn't just know where the books are, it reads them fluently and explains them to you. We are using the Google Agent Development Kit ADK and the BigQuery MCP server to make that happen.
Okay, let's actually see this. What does it look like in practice, Mazlum?
Here's our web app. It's the librarian for a BigQuery database that contains data from the 2022 Football World Cup. I am asking who are the top scorers in the France team.
So I see the agent is thinking. So it's not just searching keywords, it's actually querying the database here?
Exactly. Using the Model Context Protocol, MCP, it's like giving the librarian a master key and a flashlight. It sees the goal scored column, writes the SQL, and boom, there's Kylian Mbappé and Olivier Giroud. Since the agent is reading my actual BigQuery tables, it isn't hallucinating or just making up numbers.
This feels like magic. But let's take a look at the code that makes this work under the hood.
It starts right here in the API registry. Instead of writing all this custom code to teach the agent how to talk to BigQuery, we just drop in the managed MCP server.
So you're not just giving the agent raw access to the database.
No, it's like giving the librarian a specialized translation handbook. It provides the exact vocabulary they need to understand the database language and turn it into something we can understand.
How does the librarian know where to look in the database?
That's here in the system instruction. It explains the tables and columns in plain English. We also lay out the step-by-step query workflow for the agent, plus any specific business rules, like how to calculate a team's performance rating.
So if you had more tables, you'd add them to this system prompt?
That's right. Without this, the librarian is like a trainee who doesn't know how two books are organized. You have to give them the standard operating procedure for your specific data.
This is great, but I have a few questions for you, Mazlum.
Go ahead, Martin.
So first, why MCP? Why not write a function in Python that takes a bunch of parameters and then composes a SQL query and sends it to BigQuery? Then you could give that function to your agent as a tool for its use.
You could, but then you're back to building custom glue code for every single project. Think of MCP as a universal language for agents. Instead of writing custom adapters, one MCP server works across Gemini, Claude, or any ADK agent. It lets the agent discover tools at runtime without hardcoding them.
So it's all about plug and play?
Exactly. There are already managed MCP servers for Cloud SQL, PubSub, and Cloud Storage. You just plug in the server and the agent immediately knows how to interact with that service.
Excellent. Now, second question, how would you deploy this to the cloud?
You've basically got two main routes, Cloud Run or Agent Engine. Cloud Run is your simple, straightforward option, one container, one service, and you get total control. Agent Engine is more of a managed home for your agents. It handles session management, versioning, and gives you a nice playground UI to test things out. The only catch is it doesn't expose a REST API directly, so you do need to build a quick proxy in front of it for your clients.
All right. Well, thank you for explaining that, Mazlum. So, what are the big lessons learned from this build?
Honestly, the biggest takeaway for me is just how quickly you can make your organization's data useful just by dropping an ADK app in front of it. The biggest thing that stood out to me after that, you really have to treat your instructions like code, spend the time to get the schema and business rules right. If the instructions are unclear, the results will be too.
And I imagine those instructions will evolve over time?
Exactly. And that brings up my next point. Your instructions have to evolve right alongside your business. I see this with customers all the time. In this football example, you might want to add a new metric like the likelihood that a shot will result in a goal. Or you might add a new database table. You need to make it easy to update those instructions so the agent stays smart.
Okay, that makes sense. But if you do that, how do you manage these ever-changing prompts?
By keeping them in separate markdown files, it keeps your instructions out of your Python code, which make it easy for non-developers to jump in and update them whenever business rules change.
That makes perfect sense. I'll link to your excellent blog post for anyone who wants to dive deep into the code. Thank you for sharing this with us, Mazlum.
Thanks for having me, Martin.
And thank you, everyone, for watching. If you have any questions for Mazlum or me, add them in the comments. Also, please let me know what you thought of today's episode. I read every single comment. Now go make your organization's data more useful to your coworkers.